Well, hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to Farming Simulator 23. So I've been playing a little bit of this. We're going to jump in. There's two options. We've got Nebrun and Amberstone. I've already played a chunk of this. This is a bit more of a sort of European farm, at least. That's what it feels like, and this seems a bit more traditional American. Let's jump in with a fresh start so I can show you how this looks. I streamed a little bit the other day, because this is not something, if you've ever played a farming sim game, especially when you're trying to sort of differentiate what's changed from the previous games, you need to spend probably a little bit more than 30 minutes with it. So we streamed it for a few hours, and I've got a bit of a grasp. First and foremost, this is a Switch version, and when I say that, that's not to say that 23 will be coming out as a PC version. It would seem that the Giant Software making this do, well, exactly this. They have we'll just cancel this. Well, actually, no, wait. Just let me finish my rant, because this intro is actually really interesting. But essentially, every couple of years, they release as a Switch build and not a PC build. So maybe that disappoints PC enthusiasts, but at the same time, they could probably just play the same build for another year. And this is cool. At first blush, it's a bit janky, but it's way more accessible. And when I say janky, I just mean it's on the Switch. It's not going to have the same graphics as PC. No one's expecting it to. But if you were to just go yes, actually, onto this, it takes you through a tutorial. And if I recall, I played the past, 4 or 5 farming sims a bit. I'm pretty sure there's no tutorial. I could be wrong, but this seems new. Maybe it's a Switch thing. This is the first time I've ever played it on Switch. But I like this. It shows you all the details, and it's accessible, right? Switch vehicle, blah, 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 right? And then it gets you sort of going, and it actually takes you through the motions of how to play an actual farm sim game. I'm not allowed to pull up the map. Can I pull up this map? Nope. Okay, so there's a lot of my binds are sort of locked out. But you can hear, the field has been recently harvested. It's now waiting for being sowing, all right? So you're going to go to the tractor over here. This is great as well, like that feed out tells you exactly what you need to do. You could probably fertilize this. You could probably plow it. You can see it's still got all the roughage from the previous harvest. So you want to reset it, and I can't quite remember how it works. I think you have to plow every second harvest, or if you want to change crop, and then you cultivate every other, which is way quicker. Anyway, we're going to get into this, and it shows us the camera. Yeah, I'm rotating. And the zoom with the D-pad, which is pretty handy. Yeah, I'm just going to roll through this for the moment, because I'm just really impressed, to be honest. So you can turn on the equipment with a sort of toggle, which is great, and off we go. And so essentially, if you've never played one of these farming sim games, even though this is not the most beautiful of them, I would absolutely recommend this as a newbie's first farming sim, because it does strip back some of the more complex ideas and is way more beginner friendly. So essentially you get tractors and you attach things like cultivators to the back, and that's what this is. So we could raise it if we wanted. I don't know if the tutorial will let me. Yeah, there you go. So you can cruise around and not cultivate. But you put a lot of TLC into your agriculture. Now you don't have to be an agricultural farmer. You can do animal husbandry, then breeding and all that. That's been brought in the past couple of years. There's a pretty robust logging system as well, so you can go around just chopping down trees and processing them. Let's just keep going. I think it popped up because I stopped. The way that it hires workers is actually really quite brilliant as well. Turn around here. Don't have access to this land. Yeah, I know, bugger it. I'm just gonna rip out here to trigger everyone's OCD. Because I think once I've done enough of this field, the tutorial's going to be happy with me. Will it let me get out of the tractor? I'm not allowed to get out of the tractor. That's okay. We'll follow the bouncing ball for a little bit, and I'll throw in my thoughts. But I'm just really impressed, to be honest, with how accessible it is. And streamlined for console, which is really unusual as someone who's more of a PC gamer these days, right? If you think about it, I can get prudish about when you PC when you take a game that lives on the PC and can handle the complexity of more strategic layers, when you go and take a game and then dumb it down for console, nothing against the console audience, it's more about the fidelity of using a controller for something that's better managed with a mouse and keyboard. There's more work waiting for you, change vehicles, and a helper will help you work, right? So, we'll change. I don't know if it'll let me change back. But now what the game's done, all you usually have to do is just press A in this, and you can hire an AI worker in that vehicle, on that field, with that equipment equipped, and the AI will be smart enough to go, oh, he wants me to plough this field. And they cost a daily sort of an hourly wage, but it's the best way to get things done. You want to have like 5 tractors running at once, doing lots of different things. Okay, so there's no seeds in this. Now, this is one of the more interesting things, and I'm pretty sure it's new to this version. Again, I know they've done handheld Switch versions before, I'm pretty sure. So maybe this is a staple of the Switch versions, but for me, it's new, and maybe, you know, if you're a PC enthusiast and you're prudish about this game because it's not the PC version, I'm a convert, to be honest. I was a bit fence city, I was sitting off, but I'm across it. Now look at this. Essentially, we have this seed silo. I will also address on that topic. This farm that we've got with a lot of the Gucci upgrades already there, that's how the game starts. You don't get to choose your own farm, you don't get to buy just one tiny little, because that's how I normally play Farming Sim, is I'll buy a little plot with nothing on it, and it's really a struggle. You've got one field, and you know, you really start at the bottom. That's not how it works in this console Switch portable version. You start with a farm that's got a lot of the Gucci stuff, including things like this, which is an almost all-in-one pseudo silo. You can see we can just buy seeds from here. So we'll say, well, for what the attachment is that we've got, we can only buy seeds, but you can also buy herbicides, things like that. And again, to compare it to the PC versions, in that you would usually buy like pallet crates of herbicide or pesticide or whatever, and then you'd have to transport that back and forth. I don't think that's really in this anymore. So you just buy the seeds here and watch as it fills up. My global money just ticks down and it fills the tank up, basically. All right. You can see the tank is full. You can buy seeds, herbicides, and fertilizer at this tank. So that's kind of cool. At first I was like, but then I realized it's less fiddly. It's less fiddly, and that's what you're going for on a console. You want it less fiddly. So we're gonna turn around here. Or especially on a handheld Switch, something like that, right? Because I don't play Switch very often because I'm not one for lying around in a bed playing a video game, but I also know that that's what a lot of people do, you know? And if you take that personally, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Get out of bed and fight me. So it's not normally something I play a lot of, but I can understand, you know, if that's your target audience, this is the best way to do this game. Okay, so this is something that they implemented in recent years, I noticed as well, is that you can, it's not going to let me change seed, but you can cycle through the seeds. It used to be that you had to buy very specific seeds. Let's line this up. Close enough. It used to be that you had to go and buy this seed. I'm pretty sure that's how it was. I could be misremembering. It's not like I play a billion video games, and then when you play the same sort of sequelized version of a franchise every year, it can be hard to keep track. Boo-hoo, poor me. So there we go. We can hire a helper, and I'm not driving now. I'm hands-free. The helper's doing it all now, right? And so he's going to seed that field. Another field is already waiting for you. There's some wheat ears left that needs harvesting. I know we're just going through this tutorial, but I'm really impressed with it, and I took the time to skip it and start over and do my whole thing as well. But this is something that the game really needs. Even this, what we're about to see here, is I'm pulling a header trolley for transport. Now, I'm not 100% sure how it's going to work in the future, but we detach the trailer, right? And then what we're going to do is bring this around So you can hang multiple things on a trailer like that, and we're gonna headbutt it to attach this header. And all the trailers in that auto attach when you drive up to them, which is so less fiddly, and then you just press to detach them. But you notice that the trailer disappears, it despawns. Very interesting. Again, a lot of this middle busy work, I'm not necessarily against on the PC version, but I think it's pretty clever that they've cleaned up a lot of the, the extra bits around the edge for the Switch. So we're going to turn this on and essentially harvest this wheat. Look at this, let's go. And you can see it filling up. So on a different trailer, the UI would have had, that was, well there you go, the fill level. It would be the seed level, but for this it's the fill. Also, you can see that it's spraying the straw excess out the back. And if you buy like baling equipment, you could go and scoop all that straw up and then you could repurpose it. I'm just going to do some real rough donuts here, because we don't have a lot of time to do this overview. I just want to breeze through it. And then once this thing gets filled up, you have to drain it into a trailer to then sell on. One of the really big changes that I kind of like, it's kind of a nerf, is that you can't lease equipment in this. So that means if you want to buy a new tractor or a trailer or a friggin' like a herbicide spray or something, and it costs $30,000, that's it, you have to pay it. Usually, when you're getting started and you just don't have the equipment to go around, you're going to my words. You're going to lease them, so you could just cost a premium rental arrangement. But in this, what I found is like you do start with a lot of tractors. Again, this is unusual. So you start with a farm with all the sort of moving parts there already, a couple of fields, and like 3 tractors with all the attachments you need to just do some basic cropping. But you probably want more. Like one of the first things you don't start with a plow, I don't believe. But I ended up buying 2 plows just because I could task my guys to do it faster. Plowing's a bit slower. But by the time I did that, I was almost out of the 100 grand anyway. Field is harvested. You should overload the wheat. Right, so we're going to go out there and do exactly that in this. So there's a lot of streamlining. As far as like reading all the stats, a lot of my menus are locked out because I'm doing this tutorial, but I think we'll finish it anyway. We'll go through it because it's good. I feel that this could be helpful. Like, and then drop a comment if you're not really a farming sim person, but maybe you find this helpful, me going through this, because I find this, as much as it would be a good tutorial for someone new to the game, I would find this as a video to be really helpful, showing that, how to say, there was a time where I didn't like farming sim games and I rolled my eyes and thought they were for old boring people, and they probably still are because I'm becoming an old boring person. But at the same time, showing off how all the different parts of the industry work, and how you have to do all these bits and pieces just to get a profit, and it's all quite tricky. All this just to make money. It might entice some people that, I don't know, they stick to Captain of Industry and Anno and that sort of thing. You know, that sort of mind would go well in this game. Trailer's now full. You could store it in your silo, but you need money to pay your helpers and buy new machines. So it's best to drive to a sales point. So it's just going to mark it for me. So what you could do is ditch it into your own silo for storage, because there's seasonal price fluctuations, and seasons themselves are implemented in this, which I think was the big new thing in the last farming sim. Again, it came out of a mod, a very popular fan mod, but I think the devs were good sports to sort of fold those guys in and co-op the mod. But, so you get seasonal. Like in my other main save that I'm playing at the moment, I'm in winter at the moment. And that affects everything from prices to what you can actually do. So you might want to just chuck this harvest in storage if you can afford to survive without selling it and look to get a better price point. You can pull up all the sell points as well. The game's just autopiloting me here, giving me a waypoint, so we'll do that for the tutorial's sake. But normally if you went to go sell your seeds, you would pull up a menu and it will say, here's the 4 different places and here are the going rates. And there you go, we've got our harvest income. And then you can actually from there tag it with a waypoint as well. Now return to the farm and you've been marked. It's also implemented the smarter AI as well, like so giving the AI the ability to do fields and all that. That's been around for a while, but what got implemented in the last couple of farming sims was the ability to tell AI to like drive from point A to point B. So, like hypothetically, just then I could drive and empty out that silo. And then what I could do is pull the menu up. It's a little fiddly, but it's getting there because it's still new-ish in the scheme of the series. But I could tell this dude to waypoint home and just drive the tractor home on his own. And then I could quick travel to a different tractor and do some other busy work. Let's just cross country through here like a savage. In addition to the silo, you have other storage buildings on your farm. We can store bales and pallets. You can also fill the tank here, which is a fuel tank, which will save you from long trips to the fuel station. You're almost there, drive a little further. So there's the bale storage, there's the fuel tank there. It's totally different sort of aesthetic and farm layout on the other map. And this is your actual seed silo where you would store stuff. And you start with a couple of chooks as well that you can feed. This seat may be a comfortable view, quite nice distance, but you shouldn't be sitting here all the time. Get out of the vehicle and continue on foot. So we'll check on the chooks. Do you see the chickens? They belong to your farm. If you feed them with grain, they'll breed and lay eggs. You can sell eggs or process them into the bakery. Now let's move on. Now that's another thing that I never got into too much, but it was added in the last game, is complex goods. So bakeries, baking cakes and I'd have to bring it up like bread and all that sort of thing. So you've got this second tier industry, so you can make all the produce, but then you can also process it into more complex forms to turn it into a higher profit level. Do you remember your journey began at this house? You can sleep here and start a new day. You've got the help menu, which is actually quite helpful, and that's the end of the guide. So if I bring up that help thing, the game's going to save. It sort of has an auto-save when you jump into menus. You can see here, you can go through all this. Forestry. If we pull back up to here, it's still fairly, in the scheme of things, it's still fairly skin deep. It teaches you about farming, map filters, and then it shows you the processes as cultivating, ploughing, sowing, harvesting. It also... I think if you go further down, it might be tips on getting a better yield. I can't quite remember. I only went through this very quickly. It teaches you about the economy and how to make money. Again, it's a very complicated game, and I can see this could be overwhelming if you've never seen any of this before. But I think they've done a really commendable job of making it super accessible in the scheme of things on a console version. So we've got a little small handy map here, which I think is really handy when you're quick traveling between all your different tractors, to see what's happening on what field, right? Otherwise, you can click the thumbstick and you can bring this mega map up, and you can see here you're always going to start with this default, which again is a bit unusual. Usually you pick your own farm, but then you can buy all these other properties up. What's going on here? Field status, vehicles, points of interest, owned by you. So you can see here, the next cheapest farm is like 118 grand, something like that. But look where it is as well. Oh, that's no good. 200 grand. And so getting out and having a look at the field tells you a lot as well. All right, so you can see weeds are growing and it needs plowing. So the weeds will start to generate. You'll start to see them pop through over time. They have like a life cycle, and they're quite aggressive, like weeds. And if you get on them early, you can spray them with pesticide, and that's it. And that's easy because like the sprayer is like 5 times the width of your tractor. Like, to be honest, it's just a little. You just got to make sure that you do the job. It doesn't take very much. However, if you let the weeds grow into a higher life cycle, they actually become a bit more of an established root plant, and you need an actual weeding header, or it might be a drag, whatever you call it, on the back end of the trailer. So you will actually have to drive through there and drag those weeds out, and that can be particularly destructive, especially if you've already got stuff sown in there that's growing. What else? I was gonna have a look at my other fields, see what else they can tell us. Oh, look at this. We've got a full... Look at this. Crop type, ready to harvest, yield bonus plus 20%. I don't know if lime is in this, but liming and cultivating, making sure you plow right, making sure that you do two lots of fertilizer and containing weeds. Like, you can get big yield bonuses if you manage to carry out all these little techniques. There's a lot to learn. I'm going to just do this last bit. And then, but that's it. Now that we're off the leash with the tutorial done, which you can skip, but this is essentially how the game would start, you know. A full field ready to go. We're going to bring this around. And then I'm going to give it to an AI. No, I'm not. What have I done? Oh, I've disconnected by accident. Whoopsie daisies. It's because the controllers, Japanese Nintendo controllers, confuse me. A and B and X and Y are switched on face buttons. If you know, you know. So there you go. The AI, he's off to the races. A baler like this will cost me like 50 grand or something. But we might as well have a look at all that sort of stuff. So here's the shop. You still have to physically go to the shop to pick up your stuff. You can buy lots of little tractors, and they'll have different sort of power to weight, trucks. So it's all very specific stuff. You can go by brand if you're one of these sweaty types. I don't care about any of that. You've got the newer crops added, beets. Well, I think beets might have been around for a little bit, but forage harvesting's been around forever. Potatoes as well. Cotton, newish. Grape and olive, absolutely new. So you've got all these different types of crops that require all these different behaviors and the way that you look after them. But for the moment, I'm just sticking with grain crops. But here are all your different headers, corn headers. You can go plows, that sort of thing, subsoilers. But what you can do is, like, say you get to the point where, well, I mean, maybe you don't know what a slurry tank is, right? You can go in here and you can actually hit details. Slurry tanks are used to fertilize the field with slurry. I mean, you'd have to figure out what slurry is. Slurry is essentially your own homemade fertilizer that you can make through, like, fermenting grass, I believe. That's a whole thing. So you can collect up all that wheat. I think you could probably do it with that chaff, the hay. But I know you can definitely do it with grass as well. A cultivator prepares fields for the next sowing, but that's all of what I was getting at, is like having a read of these things is quite helpful. With a plow, you can prepare fields for the next sowing and create new fields. Wheel weights on the tractor are recommended for use. Yeah, because it digs very hard, you want to put a counterweight on the front of the tractor. So like, what's a subsoiler do? Prepares fields for the next sowing. It can be used instead of a plow. Oh, that sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? And then cultivator prepares field for next sowing. Next sowing. What's this? What is this? Disc harrows are used for shallow cultivation of fields. Okay, cool, sure. So yeah, you can figure. I think you can figure a lot of this out as you go. We've got another field as well. So this one's getting done, and we'll get a warning when that dude is when he's full up. The game will give us a warning. You can see his wages getting paid as he goes. And I like that you can see how much money you've got in real time. But then if we go over to this field, it would help. I'd move much faster if I had tractors to fast travel to. So we have a look here. What do we reckon here? Weeds growing. Herbicide. So I'm guessing what that means is it's saying you can still deal with this with herbicide. Needs ploughing. Does it? Does it need ploughing? Didn't we just cultivate it? Crop type barley is growing at the moment. Yeah, we seeded this. Yeah, anyway. I'm pretty sure if I ploughed this, it would dig up the barley. Anyway. Well, I think that's probably enough to give you a bit of an idea of how it works. And I think it's all pretty good at explaining itself. So what do I reckon? I think this is actually fantastic. And while I would say, I think the caveats would be, I would recommend this as an entry level. Someone was asking on stream actually. However, I recognize that it's brand new, so it's probably full price, even on Switch. And I know Nintendo doesn't like discounting anything ever, but I'm not sure how that works with third-party games. So maybe you can get this on special or whatever. But you also need to own a Switch as well, which might not be something, like I barely play my Switch as it is. So for an entry level, it could actually probably be a very steep price point. So the alternate, what I would say, is something like pick up Farming Sim 19 or 20 or whatever. Like if you've never played them before, they're fantastic jumping off points and you can probably get them on the cheap. But if the price point's not really an issue, and you've already got a Switch, I think this is a great first farming sim, as far as teaching you how to play and dumbing it down a bit so it's a much more accessible first experience. But again, the caveat would be you would have to reconcile that it isn't super duper current gen graphics. It is Switch graphics going for fidelity. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to bash on the Switch. I know, the Zeldas and the Marios, they all look beautiful, but that's because it's stylized graphics. We've talked about this on the channel ad nauseum. Essentially, when you're going for high fidelity realism adjacent like this, it starts to really hurt, especially on something like a Switch. Let alone that it will be out in PC in a couple of years' time. Farming Sim 22 will probably look pretty rough as well. And that's just how high fidelity realism goes when it comes to graphics. Anyway, so that's just my thoughts. I hope this was helpful for some people. Maybe you're a convert, maybe you're not convinced, whatever. I am. I absolutely am blown away. Not that I went into this with a negative mindset or anything like that, but I've always been curious. And I'm sure there are other people that sit in my camp, which is, I play this on PC. Why on earth would I play it on Switch? And after playing on Switch, I can come up with many good reasons, which I think we've laid out here. Anyway, let me know what you reckon, team. Check out the links in the description, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to try streaming a little bit more over on Twitch, so I'll put that down a link if you want to come follow me over there. Otherwise, we might just leave it there for the time being, and I will catch you guys on the next one.